I'd like to call to order this Board of Education regular meeting, Tuesday, October 17th, 2023, at 7:02 p.m. Can I get a roll call?
Mrs. Deck? Here. Mrs. Lala? Here. Mrs. McPhillips? Here. Mrs. Theodore? Here. Mrs. Gerbach Barnfield? Here. Mr. Trabuzio?
Here.
Mr. Berardi?
Okay, moving on to the Pledge of Allegiance, I'm going to have it led by the Giles Cross Country team. 1, 2, 3.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mission statement. The mission of North School District 80 is inspiring educational excellence in a nurturing environment. Now, to celebrate the success, we have the Giles Cross Country team representatives here, team members.
So our cross country team, we had such an amazing turnout. The group members of our cross country team, come on up here. Come on up here. The rest of our cross country team is studying for a test tomorrow. Pop quiz. You guys are exempt from it, so no worries. Alright, so we had such an amazing turnout. So we actually had 85 students try out for cross country, which is the most in our history here at District 80. So we were really excited. We had to hire additional staff to make sure we had, proper supervision for all of our students. We did have a few at the end that did not meet the requirements for physicals. So as a reminder here, make sure you always have a current physical on file in the nurse's office. But we had our coaches, Ms. Tribo, Ms. Shannon, and Mr. Rogers. Our teams had an amazing job. We had first place, our 5th and 6th grade girls. Our second place we had for 7th and 8th grade boys, and our 5th and 6th grade boys had second place as well. So our future is very bright in the Light and Rowan Athletic Conference for cross country. For individual races, I have those there. I'm not going to go through everyone, but they did an amazing job. There's right around 400 athletes up to 10 middle schools that participate in the conference. So to have our team results and all these individual results here at Giant School is simply amazing. So congratulations to all of our participants. So Mrs. Triba, Ms. Shannon, and Mr. Rogers just wanted to congratulate the team on an amazing season. They acknowledge that you all worked very hard. I know they ended the season with an ice cream party, so hopefully that was really exciting for each and every one of you. And then there's some pictures just to kind of wrap up the season. So I'm just going to say your name, okay? Actually you're going to say your name. And then tell us one thing that you really enjoyed about cross country this year. We'll start here. Nice and loud.
My name is Evan, and I really like hanging out with my friends.
My name is Johnny, and one thing I really liked about cross country is hanging out with my friends and running.
My name is Love, and one thing I enjoyed was running with my friends.
My name is Leona, and one thing I enjoyed was hanging out with my friends.
My name is Multipa, and one thing I like to hang out with my friends and talk, see what we want.
Absolutely. So cross country here at Giant School is a no-cut sport. So anyone that wants to come out and participate has that opportunity to participate. And what we tell everyone is to do your very best. And what one individual's perspective may be different for someone else. So just go out there, work very hard each and every day, and you all did that. So thank you so much. So thank you. Board of Education and cross country athletes who do not have a pop quiz tomorrow. Parents, if you'd like to stand up, take a picture as well, feel free. Once again, thank you so much.
Stay for the meeting, but we do understand if you have other things that you have planned.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Thanks very
Thanks again to the cross country team. Action item. Consider the motion to approve the agenda as presented. Can I get a motion?
Second.
Molly, Lauren. And a roll call.
And Mrs. Deck,
Yes.
Mrs. Burbach Barnfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Lala,
Yes.
Mrs. McPhillips,
Yes.
Mrs. Theodore,
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio.
Yes. Motion passes. Recognition of visitors. Correspondence. Community postcards. I think everyone has seen that in the board book. Public participation, there couldn't possibly be. Okay. There is no FOIA request. If there was, you could see it at the website. Presentation, district and school improvement plans.
Before we go on to that, can I just have one more celebration of success tonight,
Oh.
please? I know that our governor, J.B. Pritzker, has called October 20th Principals Day. So we do want to celebrate our principals. This Friday is your day. So, and I cannot say enough about the dedication and the hard work that Mr. Bianchi and Dr. Iviola go through every single day. Being a principal, you don't know what that job is like until you are in that position and understand the roller coaster part of the day and how what you think is happening in your day can be changed 100% by the time you actually get here at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. So I want to officially thank both of you. Just give you a little token of our appreciation. Thank you very much. Sorry I didn't celebrate you properly at the right time. Close enough. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now you can.
Round of applause.
Usually, let's take these pictures from when you went to Rotary and tried to be.
That's who that is.
They really wanted to go to Rotary. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation tonight on the improvement plans and go over the district strategic plan. This district strategic plan has several goals, and I will just quickly go over them with you. I'm not going to read the completed in progress and not started yet areas, but if you have any questions about it as we go along, I'm happy to jump in and answer those for you. Number one was to be fiscally responsible, student-centered, and make those student-centered decisions regarding finances to allocate resources to ensure excellence. So every decision that we make and every dollar that we spend does go back to how we can improve our district for the students. My job is to be able to allocate the finances that we need in the schools for the school improvement plan, which we're going to see next. The one big piece in here that I haven't really started very much yet is talking to the community organizations, so that is something I plan to do this year with PTA and with NSF. I do meet with the other community organizations, but we haven't really talked that much about our finances yet. Goal number 2 is by school year 24-25, all students in kindergarten will receive equal number of instructional minutes in ELA and math. We've actually made a lot of progress in our goal for kindergarten. This one, we're going to still keep moving forward on it, even though we do know that we have in 2027 the mandate to go full day kindergarten. But we're going to still keep moving forward so that we keep promoting full day and have our students have equal number of minutes in ELA and math. Goal number 3 is to provide safe, secure, and well-maintained buildings to support 21st century programs and promote learning. We have a 10-year life safety plan that we are always looking at and updating and improving. We have created some spaces for our early childhood, which was part of our goal with this strategic plan. We have updated many of our areas. In fact, tonight, if the board would like to, during the break between open and closed, the Area 102 conversion is completed. So you can take a look at that. We haven't moved into the offices yet, but the bathrooms are fully functional. Everything is up and ready to go. So I'd be happy to show you that this evening as well. Moving forward in our strategic plan is goal 4, which was by school year 25-26, that we are meeting all the individual prep time and space for collaboration meetings. This goal has really helped with our early release Wednesdays, which the data that you're going to see and some things I'll share with you tonight will be from directly what were done during early release Wednesdays. We still have some growth to go with co-planning opportunities. We have some opportunities in our schedule, but we'd like to continue to grow those areas. Those are the areas of our strategic plan that we put together, not last school year, but right at the end of the school year before. I do think that the board should think about getting back together for updating our strategic plan so we can move forward on some new goals. The principals now are going to talk to you about the school improvement goals that they set. They shared this plan with you back in April, and now they're going to give you some information about where they are after our first data day. I just wanted to remind the board of this triangle that I shared with you back in July. Everything that we do in the district is kind of centered around a tiered system. Last month, when the assistant principals talked with you about communication and tardy and absences, that was centered around this system as well. So we're really making great efforts on taking every piece of what we do and centering it around a tiered system. So 80% of the students, typically on a tiered system, fall into Tier 1. They receive the core curriculum, everything's moving along, they make progress, and everything is great. 15% typically qualify for a Tier 2 support. Tier 2 support might be the core, what we typically say core plus more. So that could be that they're learning the core information and when they're relearning it a second time, maybe in a different way, maybe with different materials, maybe with the same materials, maybe with a different teacher, maybe with the same teacher. But we look at that data and strategically plan out where they would have support. And then 5% typically fall into a more intensive support of Tier 3. Tier 3 offers more than Tier 1 and Tier 2. This support could look completely different at this point, and we try to get it as small as possible, not 1-to-1, 1-to-2 as the largest. It could be in a completely different program that they're working on, but still following the same standards or the same things that were being presented in Tier 1, but just look very different. This is not to be mistaken with special education. This is a step along the way if a student is not responding to Tier 3, that we may look at opening up a special education evaluation. Does not mean we necessarily will on all students in there. It's just an option along the way. So Mr. Bianchi and Dr. Raviola are going to go in and talk to you about the school improvement plans. And as they talk to you about the 3 goals, as you recall, there's a math goal, an ELA goal, and then a social emotional goal. They will go back to that triangle each time to let you know on trimester 1 data, where the students fell. So if you remember those percentages that typically students fall 80% into green, 15% into yellow, and 5% into red. So I will ask Dr. Raviola to come up first. Or if you can talk, and I can talk longer.
Oh, okay.
Whichever you're comfortable with.
Well, if I'm over here, I can probably read a little bit better, because that's kind of hard to read, even if you gotta get a little close. But so our first goal, which you see projected over there, is focused around 70% of our students meeting their individualized expected growth in math, and we're using the iReady assessment to track that data. So with our school improvement plan, we put together different action steps that we were going to work on that would help us ultimately in achieving that goal. One of them was updating our MTSS manual and our processes, and then also presenting them to the staff, so that way everyone is familiar with those updated procedures. That is something that we have been able to accomplish. We put in a lot of work through our committees on early release Wednesdays, and also did some work over the summer that helped us to put some of those systems in place. That's still something that we always go back to refine, but in terms of putting forth the plan and presenting it, we have that completed. Then you'll see a range of action items that are still in progress, some which will remain in progress, like our collaborative planning through our professional learning communities. That's something that will always be consistent and will always be ongoing. Something like our flexible groupings that we've started to explore, and with a focus on targeted, differentiated instruction, making sure that we're providing instruction for students where they're at, meeting them where they're at, because we know that research has shown that that's when students make the most growth, is when they're actually getting taught at their instructional level. Something like goal setting is something that we're still working on. It is also weaved in through our second step social emotional curriculum, and is something that we're working on with some individual students on setting goals and some of their plans. We are working on a strategic plan for our multi-tiered system of supports. We do have some processes and whatnot in place, but we also want to have a plan built out in the longer term to see how we're monitoring fidelity of the plan, so that way we know it's sustainable. And then school to home connection, we have parent universities, which the first parent university was just last week for our ELL parent university, which I think was also maybe something I should have mentioned during the Celebrate the Success, because there was a great turnout for that event from what we had seen last year. So I think that was really great to see, and just want to shout out to everyone who worked on that, our assistant principals and ELL teachers. So thinking about that in math, if we go to the next slide, perfect. That is the three-tiered continuum. So right now, we have about 76, close to 77% of our students are showing us that they're succeeding with the core curriculum. Now, remember, we want to see that really at 80% or above. Because right now we're seeing that about 17.8% of our students are needing some additional supports. So that tier 2 support shows us that there might be some students that need a reteaching, or they might need to be pulled in a small group and to review the lesson that was previously taught to make sure that they're continuing to show progress. Now, we also have about just over 5% of students that need a little bit more intensive support. So just that small group reteaching, things like that, that isn't enough support for them. They need something a little bit more. So maybe it's going back to some foundational skills. Maybe it's working on those like early numeracy skills or things like that. And that's what we might see in a tier 3 intervention. So right now for math, our numbers in tier 2 are a little bit higher than what we want to see. So we want to see a few more students performing with the core curriculum. Now looking at our second goal, which focuses around reading, we're looking for 70% of students to make their individualized expected growth. So when the students take the iReady diagnostic exam in the beginning of the year, it charts their projected growth and gives them a target score. And we want to make sure that they're achieving that target score. And Some of the ways we're going to do that is, this is very similar to what we're doing in math. We're making sure that our MTSS system is up in process, and we have that system in place. And that way we're able to respond to students when we're seeing that they're struggling with some of the content. We want to make sure that we're collaborating in POCs. That's focusing on 4 questions, thinking about what we want our students to know and be able to do. So what are the standards that we're teaching? Thinking about how we are monitoring your growth. What assessments are we using, and what does that instruction look like? And then come questions 3 and 4, which is how do we respond when students aren't quite understanding that, which really relates to our multi-tier system of supports, thinking of those tier 2 learners who need a little bit more support, or tier 3 if they need just a little, even more than just a little bit more. And then also, how are we working with our students who have already mastered that so that we continue to see their growth as well. And similar to math, we also had some goal setting. We have the MTSS strategic plans. We have parent universities to make sure that parents are partners in the education of their child, and also a focus on academic vocabulary, because we do have a large ELL population, and we know how important that vocabulary and language acquisition piece can be. And also informational text, because that was one of the areas that we found through our data analysis. And we are actually trying to focus on that through our content area instruction, through social studies and science.
I'm sorry, what does PLC stand for?
Professional Learning Community. So when we look at the next slide here, which shows the 3 tiers, you'll see that for ELA, we're about just over 80% of our students are responding to that core curriculum. They're performing, within that average or above average range. Then we have 14.7% who are in need of some additional support for tier 2. And then we have just bordering near 5% where students need more intensive support in tier 3. And in ELA, that might be something like we're focusing on those early literacy skills and making sure that students are focusing on the phonics, even if they might be in 2nd grade and should be reading, but we need to make sure we're building those early literacy skills so that way they can close the gap that we're seeing. Our third goal is focused around social emotional behavioral growth, and we have been working really closely with our community partners through the Community Partnership Grant on a lot of these pieces, and also we have 2 committees that are really focusing heavily on this work. Our School Culture and Climate Committee and our Social Emotional Tier 2, Tier 3 Committee. So we've done things like setting a lending library where teachers can go into the library and they have a section with a selection of SEL themed books. So if they're looking for a text that goes along with something that they're trying to teach, there are some of those resources. We're also making sure that we have a system for identifying students who may be showing that they're at risk. Right now, that is something that we've worked on through our MTSS system and also our PBIS system. And some of the things that we're still working on are making sure that we have our guidelines for paw mark. How many paws should students typically be earning throughout a week? So that way, when students have that opportunity to go and shop, they are able to actually buy something and reap the benefits of showing us how to be safe, responsible, respectful. We've been working on building common language throughout the building. This is specifically for problem solving, but also in our calm down routine, which is stop and name your feeling and calm down, which we actually had a assembly that the PTA had provided last week, which we were able to incorporate that common language. And any way that we're able to continuously build upon that common language and have that consistent language is important, because then that gives our students that same understanding and everyone in the building that same, understanding for using the same language in the same way. We're also working on integrating second step into morning meeting and closing circles. Our general education social worker, Mr. Larkin, has really been working on this during some of our morning meetings, our morning collaboration meetings, and that has been great. We're always looking for professional development opportunities and working on our protocols for how we support students who are moving between the tiers, where maybe they're not showing progress when they're in a tier 2 intervention, and we might need to look at something a little bit more intensive for a type of support, and vice versa. One of the things that we have not necessarily started is creating a library of different tier 2 and tier 3 behavioral interventions. So far, we focused pretty heavily on tier 2 with our community partners, but we're still building our continuum and how we want that to look with our community partners through that grant. And, so it's not necessarily about having a whole bank of different interventions, but more so making sure that selected interventions that we've all agreed upon are being implemented, correctly with fidelity. So that is something that we are still working on. And if we go to the next slide, we'll see the 3 tiers for social, emotional, behavioral. And when we look at our students here, we see that 91.4% of our students are responding to our core curriculum, which in this case would be our second step, social, emotional learning curriculum. We have about 8% of our students that need a little bit more. And if you look at that number, that's about 41 students that need a little bit more guidance and direction when it comes to that social, emotional, behavioral. And that might look like a check-in, check-out, where they have a daily report about how they're showing that they're safe, responsible, and respectful throughout the day. Or that might look like a social, emotional, behavioral group where they're focusing on either social skills, academic skills, or building like their emotional toolkit, or emotional regulation toolkit. And then we do have some students where they really need a little bit more than that, so that we call that intensive support. That's our tier 3. Right now that's under 1%, but that's still 3 students, and those are students that we work a little more closely with to identify plans of how to support them. And really when it gets to that level for social, emotional, behavioral, typically that means that we're trying to individualize plans for those particular students. So looking at, these are just numbers of students who receive ELL support during our wing time. So right now we have, I should have put the exact numbers here, but we have probably 17 students, I believe, in kindergarten. We have about 35 students in first grade, 21 students for second grade, 10 students in third, and I believe 14 for fourth grade. So there's quite a few students who are receiving that specific support during those times. So we also have some after-school supports. So we're focusing on 3 areas here at Lee. We're focusing on math. We really did want to target math because if you look back at the triangle that we showed around math, that was one area where we weren't in that typical range. Our tier 2 was a little bit higher than what we would like it to be, under that 15%. So we really wanted to focus on math. So we have 43 students who are receiving some after-school support in math, and they are right on in that range of where you see that yellow. So, and then we also have an ELO support for our newcomer students. We have 9 students attending that after school. And then we do have some current plans that we're continuing to work out to support our social, emotional, behavioral groups. Right now, we really needed to, since we've established some new procedures around social emotional behavior, we're trying to see what interventions are working and how that's being managed throughout the school day. And then we're going to identify specific students that we feel may benefit from some additional support after school. And this is all taking place Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3:15 to 4:15. Then looking at the number of students who are receiving support in math after school. So first grade, we have 12 students, second grade 10, third grade 12, and then we have 9 students in fourth grade who are currently receiving that additional support. And I believe that this is my last slide here.
If I can just add that after-school support that the students are receiving in the EI or math or the behavioral piece is paid through the CARES grant that we received. So not only do we use that grant for the after-school enrichment program as Park District, we are also using that grant for this program as well. That's something we're going to have to study this year because that grant is ending at the end of the school year. So if we find value and that we're seeing results, we're going to have to think about budgeting for that for next year. Something we'll have to consider as we look at the data very carefully on the growth of the students who are in the program. Mr. Bailey?
Okay, for Giles School, a lot of the stuff that Dr. Rabiota shared with you is very similar to here to Giles School as well, but some things that I'd like to touch upon. Our first goal is geared towards math. And the focus, as you see, we've completed already a couple things, and that in part is through our MTSS process. We redesigned, redeveloped our handbook. We did an extensive amount of work over the summer with our staff, got everyone together on several occasions, and redeveloped that MTSS manual so that we can support our students and make sure that we're meeting each and every student's needs. But also, we want to make sure that our students understand the data as well. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as I go on in my presentation as well. So we've completed 2 things. We have several things that have been started but are in progress. Some of these items will remain in progress throughout the entire year. One of the things that we really took a look at closely was our morning collaboration time. And we wanted to make sure that we made that time, we expanded it in reality this year so that we can cover more topics and have more, get the stakeholders, our staff involved, more understanding the data, knowing how can we help support individual students and where they need to be so that we can help them grow academically. And so we've expanded. Last year we had 4 different topics that we met throughout the week. This year we've expanded it to just a little under 10 different topics. We focus on many different things. BLT, we focus on MTSS academic, we also focus on behavioral, we focus on special education, we focus on subject level vertical teaming so that we can get our grade levels together and we can get them planning from 5th to 6th, 7th and 8th, get them all on the same page. So our morning collaboration time is a direct result due to our school improvement plan. So things are going very well and we are making progress. So we're excited about that. Another thing that we brought in to support our school improvement plan this year is Branching Minds. And that's our data warehouse. And the great thing about Branching Minds is it allows all staff to be able to have access, to be able to know where to look up a student's data and understand that student's data. When we're having discussions and we're trying to work to try to solve an issue that we've discovered, and it's important that we have all the data at our fingertips, all in one central location. And this Branching Minds does that for us. And it's important because when the teachers understand the data, know where to look for, we have that better opportunity at a quicker rate to support that student and give them the intensive support that they need right away. So that's been very helpful this year. So that is one of the things that we've not started that we're going to be working on is continuation of our co-teaching model. We want to make sure that we continue to provide that support to our math, our ELA, and our special education teachers. At Giles School this year, we added a new course offering to some of our special education students, and it's a foundation course that supports those students, and it's in between a self-contained classroom and a co-taught environment, but we call it a foundations class. And so that is going really well this year, and we want to continue to make sure that we educate our staff and identify where we need to support our students at that time. One thing that's upcoming that you'll hear about soon is a parent university. Dr. Raviola and I will be presenting an MTSS parent university to our parents. And so we want to make sure that we provide the information and educate our community, our parents, and then also hear from them too, our stakeholders. We want to make sure that we're addressing their needs. So we're really excited about that. As you recall, last year in our math, we had 14% growth, double-digit growth. So we were really excited about that. But, we want to make sure we have a lot of work to do, and we're going to work with our students and support them in the areas, the one area of math. On the next slide, you'll see that for, hold on, sorry. So that says ELA, it should actually say math, but we have, for our tier 1, we have 93.91% receiving our core. We have at our tier 2, 21 students, so that's 4.56%, that's for tier 2. That's our strategic support. I'm going to talk more about after-school programming in a little bit. And then tier 3 is our intensive support, and that is our 1.53% of our student population. One thing that I've taken out of this data is our ELL population. I'll talk more about that as I go on. But we have 36 students that identify as ELL. So they're not part of our MTSS process. They actually go to a special wing with a teacher. So we have a teacher at our 5th and 6th grade level, and we have a teacher at our 7th and 8th grade level that has certification in ELL support, and they work with our newcomers, new to the United States, or under a year, or we've seen that we still need to support them. As we're looking at data throughout the year, we see our students that our ELL population, we see that they are very successful when it comes to math, but we see that their percentile is low at reading. That being the language is a huge factor. So we're working very hard to support our ELL population to give them the tools and the resources so that they can be successful. And our staff does a wonderful job. Another new program that we incorporated this year based on our school improvement program is we adopted an ELL co-teaching model. And so we have our ELL teacher that now pushes into the social studies classroom and works with our ELL population during social studies time. The reason we dedicated during social studies time because a lot of the skills in social studies are skills of reading. And so we already have a co-teaching model within the ELA program. So we identified social studies as that area where we can support our ELL population in reading, but in social studies. So moving on to our next goal, which is 70% of our students will meet or exceed expected growth in reading NWA math measure of academic progress from winter 22-23 to winter 23-24. So unlike Lee uses iReady data, we use our math data to collect for our students here at Giles School. We fell short of our goal last year in our school improvement plan. So this year we took a really an aggressive approach to support our students when it comes to ELA reading. So we revamped our WIN program. And we're really excited about the program, and really kudos to our ELA teachers who came in over the summer and really worked on the WIN program to get it to that next level. Last year we had the foundation. this year we're building upon that foundation and we're seeing growth. So hopefully many of you that have children at Giles have heard, but our WIN has changed. So on Mondays and Fridays, each grade level at Tier 1 core curriculum is doing novel reading. So they each have a novel for that class, grade level, the same novel, and they're working with their teachers regarding that novel. On Tuesdays, we take a deep dive into vocabulary. So at the end of last year, we had all of our subject levels develop important vocabulary words that are important in their subject level, so that we can make sure that we're properly educating our students on those vocabulary words. But also what we're doing this year is through our novel reading, we're taking key vocabulary words in our novel reading, and we're identifying those, and we're supporting our students. So this year we created my vocabulary journal. It's a very lengthy document. It covers over 166 vocabulary words that we've identified as a middle school, at Giles School. And we're having students define the vocabulary on their own. We're having them document what the actual definition is. We're having them write it in a paragraph, use it in a sentence. We're having them look up in a dictionary and kind of get things that are very similar or are different from that vocabulary word. So when we're supporting them in vocabulary, as Dr. Raviola said, we wanted to make sure that at Giles, we wanted to do that same, and so we're taking a deep dive in supporting our students for vocabulary. On Wednesdays, what we're doing in the area of ELA, we're focusing on priority standards that we saw that students they did well. I don't want to say they didn't do well, they did well, but there's a lot of room for growth that we can have. So our ELA team identified those priority standards, and what we're doing is our ELA teachers are reteaching it, but we're providing additional support during Wednesdays, honing in on those specific priority standards. And those specific priority standards are going to help our students when they take that IAR assessment and when they take the MAP assessment 3 times during the year. On Thursdays, what we're doing is we're focusing in on grammar. That's our key concept that we're focusing on Thursdays, identifying and having students write out and just have more focus. ELA teachers prepare that document, and all of our advisory teachers, our WIN teachers work on that during WIN. And then on Friday, we wrap it up again with our novel reading. Each trimester, there'll be a different novel for our students to read, to learn, to understand. We'll take key vocabulary words from those novels, and we'll put it into play on Tuesdays. So that was one thing that we really wanted to do, to take an aggressive approach, because last year we fell short of our goal, so we want to make sure that we hit our target this year. And so part of that process, again, morning collaborations, MTSS, branching minds, understanding the data, knowing our target points, knowing where we need to go to support our students. So on the next slide, you'll see that should say ELA, so I apologize. We took out our ELL students, and so we have 411 students that are at Tier 1. That's 89.35%. That's at the core curriculum. And that WIN program that I just talked about are those students right there that are getting that, those 411 students. Our 36 ELL students are in that special WIN class, and they're getting their support for language, the English language. Our 44 students are at that Tier 2, and they're getting that strategic support. We use one of the things that we're doing at Tier 2 is guided reading. So that means that the teachers are taking their knowledge, their understanding of the curriculum, where they know where the students need to be, and so they're doing guided reading during that Tier 2 during WIN time, supporting the students. And then we have our 5 students that are at the Tier 3, 1.08%, that are getting that intensive support. And those students are using a program called LLI, and that's Level Literacy Intervention. And so it's a scripted intervention, and it's taught by our most qualified teacher, which is our ELA teacher, during this time. And so she, that individual is working with those students to support them where they're at, to get them where they need to be. So moving on to goal number 3. So our goal is to reduce repeat offenders, top 10% of students receiving referrals, percentage of contributions to majors from 40.25% to 30%, and contribution to minors from 22.9% to 17%. So what we're doing is, one of the things that we did as a whole district is we provided all of our staff CPI training, verbal de-escalation training, so that when there is an intense situation and students are they're escalated, and we want to de-escalate them, we have, the teachers have been given techniques to support them, to get them to where they're at, so that learning can take place. We all know when a student is not regulated, learning is not taking place. So our goal is to get them back regulated, redirect them, get them back into class, and get them back to learning. Many of these items that you see that are in progress are things that are important that will be in progress all year. On every Monday and Friday, we do an SEL check-in. So through our PBIS rewards program, students log in. It's a very quick, it's really less than 3 minutes. They go in and they identify how they're feeling. Basically, they check a box, check an image, and that allows them to kind of document and tell us how they're feeling. Our social workers, psychologists review this data, but also our classroom teachers review this data. So when a student enters their classroom and they see a student that's not regulated, they can look into that SEL, that quick check-in, and see that that student started the day off not in a good place. So then that teacher can have a conversation with them. They can support them, provide some guidance, allow them an outlet so that they can talk, or if they're just not having a good day and they need that next level of support, then they can go to the social worker or school psychologist and get that next level of support. We've chosen Mondays because we've seen through data that on Mondays when students come in, there tend to be a little more issues compared to Tuesday through the rest of the week. On Fridays, we end the week. We want to see, especially how they documented themselves on Monday. We want to see how they end the week, where they're at, how they're doing, and then how we're setting them up, because we want to set them up for success as they're going into that weekend and help them with any conflicts that they may be experiencing at home or at school. So that's another area. One of the things another area of professional development is where we taught our check-in, check-out. Through our community grants that we've been working all last year, this entire summer, and this school year, we redesigned our check-in. We want to make sure that our students at a tier 2 are being respectful, being responsible, and being safe. So we put students at a tier 2. Students that are repeat offenders for behavior are automatically qualified for a tier 2 intervention. And what we do, and anyone in the building is a coach, a check-in, check-out coach. It could be from an administrative assistant to a paraprofessional to maintenance. It's developing that relationship and being able to have a conversation with them and setting that student up for success. But at the end of the day, when a student is checking that student out and having those conversations with them. If a student was successful, received all their points, having that celebration with them and letting them know they did an amazing job, and we want them to continue with that amazing job. Or if we see a student had some difficulties, we want to be able to have a conversation. What was the issue today? How can we support you? What changes can you make tomorrow so that we're not at that same place? We need to make changes. If we continue to doing the same thing, well, we all know that's the definition of insanity, right? So we want to make sure that we help support them so that they know that a change is needed, but it has to be an ownership. Students need to take ownership for their behavior. Students need to take ownership for their learning. We're here to support them, we're here to guide them, but at the end of the day, they need to be doing that, so we need them to have a buy-in into the program. And things are working out very well. So we have, and I don't have that number off the top of my head, but we have a number of students that are in our check-in, check-out, and our coaches work very hard with them. Another thing that we did this year is to support our repeat offenders is my progress log. So hopefully your students, your children have come home, talked to you regarding my progress log. But every Monday during advisory, that is where we want to do executive functioning. So students document how many majors, how many minors. They document their attendance, they document their tardies. And the reason we do that is we all can look at data. Miss Aarons, myself, we really know the data when it comes to, absences, tardies, behaviors and all that. But it's important for that student to take that ownership. Many times they forget, oh, I forgot in August I received, I was tardy 2 days. So we have them document that, so they take ownership for their learning. But then Mrs. Aarons also has those conversations with those students. Because when they come in tardy at school, they're greeted by Mrs. Aarons. She's sitting right there at that table. She has that conversation with them. As you noticed with our new communication policy this year, Mrs. Aarons, myself, and the staff have been reaching out to all of our parents and having those conversations. Some of those conversations are tough, but are important conversations. And parents have been doing really wonderful. We're not experts, but we're here to provide some support, maybe a recommendation to support a student, maybe a student that's not waking up on time, giving them the resources, the tools, the knowledge, what they can do to help them. So we are seeing growth in that. But my progress log is a direct result because of that. We also, through our community grant, partnered with NAMI, which is the National Alliance of Mental Illness. And every Tuesday, we have a social worker who comes in and provides Tier 2 support to our students. This individual spends an hour and a half, 2 hours with paperwork and everything in our building every Tuesday. There's 2 groups that this individual meets with. We want to make sure that these groups are very intentional, so they're very small. So they're not more than 6 kids in the group. But we're getting support from NAMI. Another support that NAMI is doing that's going to start occurring around the month of November, December, is they're going to be coming in doing evening parent groups. We're going to have a topic every month, every week. And then parents are going to be able to come in and we're going to be able to provide additional resources and support to our parents. And we're going to let them, feel free, ask us questions. What can we do to help you? And we also want to be able to hear our parents. We want to be able to understand their concerns. And so this is one of the areas why NAMI is coming in. And they've been a great partner with Norwich School District 80. So we're very appreciative of them. As you saw on our website, we've been shooting many videos to support our students through the SEL process. We just shot another video this morning at Giles School, so hopefully that gets released within the next week or 2 weeks. The video that was shot today by NAMI was how to support our students and our parents in SEL, social and emotional learning. So we're really excited about that. So on that next slide, you see the behavior here. Now, when you hear Mrs. Aarons' behavioral report, I want to make sure there is a difference, right? So here what we're looking at is students, it's repeat individuals, those repeat offenders. So we want to make sure we're focusing on that. So you'll see the number of students. So we have 487 students when this slide was prepared for this meeting that are at Tier 1 core. So that's 98.18% of our student population is doing what they're supposed to be doing. No referrals, no majors, no minors. They're doing exactly what they're doing. One of the issues that as an administrator we have, I feel like we get absorbed in all the negative. Like we have to have those tough conversations. So we always feel like, oh, okay, we have to hone in on this specific area and address it because it's getting maybe out of control. But in reality, it's not. It's very small percentage of students, but those small percentage of students take a lot of our time, take a lot of our resources. We have to dedicate a lot to support those students. And we're going to do that, and we're going to get them to where they need to be at. We have 8 students that are at Tier 2 strategic support, so that's 1.61% of our student population. And then we have 1 student, 0.21, that is currently in intensive support. And that looks like we have parents come in for meetings. We have communication by phone with them. Students in check-in, check-out at a Tier 1, Tier 2 support. And we're having those conversations every single day. If you go on to the next slide through our ELL, we have 36 students. You'll see the numbers. So we have 12 at 5th grade, we have 10 at 6th grade, 6 at 7th grade, and 8 at the 8th grade. That's out of 496 students that we currently have at Giles. 36 of them are in the WIN program, getting that support that they need by our ELL teachers during WIN time. Our next slide is the after-school intervention support. Through that grant, we were able to hone in and support in 5 key areas. And those key areas are ELA support, math support, ELL support, intervention support, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about, and behavioral support. So we're able to help those students after school on Tuesdays and Thursdays for 60 minutes, 120 minutes a week. For our students with intervention support, our after-school support is we're honing in specifically on students that identify at the 26th percentile to the 40th percentile. As many of you, I'm sure, are aware, Tier 2 is below that 25th percentile to that 10th percentile. And Tier 3 is below that 10th percentile. So what we want to do is we want to set our students up for success, and especially those students that are at that 26th percentile to that 40th percentile, we want to make sure we give them this intensive support. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they can come in and get support on ELA, reading, and math. So it looks different for each individual student because we meet each student where they're at. Some students may be guided reading. Some students may be working on IXL. Some students may be working on reflex math. Some students may be working on iReady. The nice thing about iReady and IXL, we take the map data, we break it down, we take their scores, we input it into iReady and IXL, and it creates a pathway. And so those students are working on their pathway of areas where they're deficient in. And so it provides that intensive support. And that's we're really excited about that, because when you get to the 26th to the 40th percentile, it involves more staff, it involves more students, right? So through this grant, we're able to support these students, and we're really hoping through our aggressive approach in ELA and also in math this year, that we can support these students and get them to where they're at. Our goal is to get them above that 40th percentile. So we're really excited about that. For our students that qualified for Tier 3, not only are they getting that support during WIN, but we also have the luxury of having a paraprofessional work with them in a pull-out setting. So these students at a Tier 3 are getting pull-out. So they're getting 30 minutes, 5 days a week support in either reading or math. They're getting 28 minutes, 5 days a week in reading or in math, wherever that area of concern deficiency is in. And then these students are also coming in and on Tuesdays and Thursdays as well and getting 120 minutes. So if you add all that up, that comes up to like 500 and some odd minutes a week. And so we're really excited about that. We're really hoping that we can see that data grow. One thing that I'm working with our staff is they're our true experts, right? And so we want to make sure they understand the data, we want to make sure they know where the endpoint is, and we want to make sure that they're working hard, which they are, striving to meet each student where they're at. So we're working with our staff, and they're doing really a phenomenal job. If you look at the next slide, you'll see our after-school support. Our key area right now is our fifth grade class, our class at 2027. And then we have our 6th graders, our 7th graders. Our 8th graders, we actually had 2 students. However, we were able to put those two students in during a win time, so that's why you see there's no students. If you're wondering, why no students at 8th grade? We actually had 2 that identified, but we were able to get them into our win, because our numbers at the 8th grade level look really great, and we're really excited about that. We only have 1 student in the win that's below that 25th percentile. The rest of the students, the 4 other students that are in for math, are above that 25th percentile. So our math data and our ELA data at the 8th grade looks really well. I apologize, I was long-winded, but this is what we do on a daily basis with our students at Giles and also at Lee, and I really appreciate you giving us this opportunity to share all the exciting things we're doing at Giles. Do you have any questions? Well, thank you so much.
Very comprehensive.
A lot of work that goes into that. Thank you both very much.
Administrative reports.
Everything in my report is in discussion.
Special education, Mr. Masters.
Sure, so just a couple quick things. One big celebration, I know that I brought to the board before that we are working currently with our AAC expansion. It's a very big project. We have made some really great strides. We've actually now been able to draft our procedures, which doesn't sound like a really big accomplishment, but there's a lot of minute details that go into that, including how do parents request those devices for home. So that includes waivers to make sure that we are making sure our technology is protected, but then also to make sure that the kids actually get those devices so that they can use it in all settings. So very, very good progress with that, very excited with that. So thank you to all of our speech paths in our district and also for West 40 for supporting us through that. A couple other pieces, we have continued to support our self-contained teachers through West 40, so that's been really great to have that collaboration continue to make sure that we can help create plans for paraprofessionals, make sure that we're tailoring visuals to each of our students, and also giving those positive behavioral supports in the classroom. I do want to also extend a quick welcome to Mrs. Cusolo. She is our new special education committee member. We had another member who had to step down from that position, which is unfortunate, but we know that Ms. Cusolo will bring quite a bit of needed perspective to the Giles special education role to our committee, and we are actually focusing on ESY recruitment qualifications. So we are currently going through that, and then our high school partnerships have been off to a great start. Ms. Sarah DeVito and Ms. Stephanie Mack were both our 8th grade teachers have been given the opportunity to go to both Ridgewood High School and then West Leighton to see a little bit more about what students in 8th grade will be walking into when they transition to their high school. So lots of little pieces to kind of figure out what are they going to do post-secondarily, but this is a really great step to kind of try to have that collaboration and that articulation between the two several buildings. So that is my report.
Thank you. Building reports. Giles, Mr. Dick.
Well, thank you. So this Friday is our fall picture makeup day. So if you would like your child to have a retake, this Friday is the day. Students will be getting new IDs with their new picture. If you have been on PBIS Rewards, you will see that the new pictures have already been uploaded. And you should have all received your proofs from the original picture day at home. If you have any questions regarding that, please feel free to reach out to my office and we can help support you with that. Field trips, our building leadership team has been working very hard. We recently just released to our 8th grade group, our 8th grade class, the first field trip to the Holocaust Museum in Skokie. So that'll take place on November 29th. So we're really excited about that. And more field trips will be coming out for the other grade levels, but this one was one that we were able to get out right away. Fall 1 sports, we talked about cross country. Boys softball took 3rd place. Girls lost in the quarterfinals, but both teams made the postseason, so we're excited about that. Amazing job. Also, shout out to our coaches for all their work that they did working with our students. We're currently in our fall 2 sports season, so we have girls volleyball going in and boys soccer. Volleyball just started their season, so we're excited about that. Boys soccer, they've been in already a couple of weeks and they're doing very well. They did have a win today, so congratulations to them. I'll make that announcement on the loudspeaker tomorrow morning. And our PBIS store opened last week. Tuesdays, our 5th and 6th graders during period 7 will receive their incentives. And Thursdays, our 7th and 8th grade students will receive their incentives. Thursdays, period 7. This is through our LEAP program, our self-contained classroom. The nice thing about this is those students in that self-contained classroom are out having discussions with our students in the classrooms. This is supporting them in communication skills. This is supporting them in socialization skills. So this program is really wonderful, and we're really excited that Ms. Mack and our LEAP students are running our PBIS store. And that concludes my report.
Lee School, Dr. Raviola.
So similar to Mr. Bianchi said around field trips, we are also working on some additional field trips that will be coming up throughout this school year. We have one coming up Friday for our kindergartners. They're going to, I think it's Johansson Farm in Bolingbrook to do the study of pumpkins. So that'll be exciting. We also had a couple of our first grade classes today went to Safety Town at Parliament River Plaza, so that's always an exciting trip. We have, I believe, 3 classes in today. We have 2 more classes that go on Thursday because it was hard to accommodate 5 classes all at one time. But that's something that they were really excited going on. They even came with a little bag with some loot in it, and they were really excited about those. So we have our Paul Mart's store up and running. We shifted the location. It's now in like the concession stand area here. And if you get a chance to kind of peek around the corner, maybe during the break, you'll see a little bulletin board that shows the different items that students can shop for. And just having it set up there versus on the stage just makes for a little bit more of a smooth operation when it comes to passing that out. Makes you feel like you're more at the arcade. I was had the pleasure of going to Chuck E. Cheese on Friday. It was my daughter for her birthday party, and it just kind of reminded me of like, oh yeah, there you go. There's all the exciting stuff. We're excited for that. Students are going through their second Paul Mart visit this week, and that's always exciting. And then wanted to say thank you to the PTA for providing an assembly last week focused around utilizing our calming strategies and also finding different ways to kind of help regulate when you're feeling some strong emotions. So it was a really nice assembly. It was very engaging. Students were up and moving and they were able to share the strategies that they already know. And we've seen some students practicing some of those, throughout the building, which is really great. A lot of, smelling the rose and, blowing out the candle, those types of things. So really fun. Yeah. And also on the 27th of this month, we have the PTA Halloween party. So that's always something to look forward to, and I know it's a big, there's typically a big turnout for that, so that's always exciting. And I feel like I was going to mention one other thing that is slipping my mind at the moment. So, but lastly, just wanted to also review, and I know we mentioned it throughout our presentation that we just went through around our community partnership grant. We've been working closely with NAMI, who've been coming in to help record some of the videos that we're sharing out. They're helping us to work on that parent communication piece of how we share out what it is that we're actually teaching. So that way we're really building that connection between school and home. Also, Midwest PBIS came, and we had 2 members from Midwest PBIS who did a walkthrough with us and kind of gave us some questions that we can ask students and we can ask staff members. And through that walkthrough, we were collecting some data just to see what those responses. And it was things like, do we know the 3 school-wide expectations, and seeing how many students were able to, share that we know it's be safe, responsible, and respectful. And the same thing with staff. And then also asking students if they knew the calm down routine and if they've been taught that, and or when they receive a paw, what are some things that your teacher might say when you receive that? Are we looking for that? 'Cause we're looking for behavior-specific feedback. So it gave us a lot of this data and information that we can then take back to our team to help us continue to grow in our tier 1 implementation of GPIS. And I believe that was everything I had. There's a couple other items I covered during the previous presentation. So thank you.
Discipline reports, Giles, Mrs. Aaron's.
7 suspensions to report this month, 1 in violation of board policy 7:190, 9, 10, and 21. 3 in violation of board policy 7:190, 9, and 10. 1 in violation of board policy 7:190, 9, and 21. And 2 in violation of board policy 7:190, 10.
We have no discipline to report at E for this.
Monthly staffing report.
Yeah, the monthly staffing report is moving along. Tonight we have a couple of additional paraprofessional positions that we're hiring and a CSM, which is a school for special education evaluations. Other than that, we're doing well.
Board committees. Education, nothing to report. Board policy development, policy 114 is coming soon. Building and grounds, a meeting is coming up on the 23rd. Committee meeting, I should say. Behavioral intervention, nothing to report. Negotiations and human resources, anything?
Nope, nothing to report.
Finance, next meeting is right before our regular meeting on November 14th. Being at 6:30, in which we discuss the tentative tax levy and the bond interest resolution. G, communications, do you need to plan something or get some conversation going? And Norwich Park District, well, tonight we will vote on the final contract. To discussion items.
And just to note, I do post all of my discussion and presentation online on the Board of Education website. You go down to presentations and the presentation that was presented with the school improvement plan. If anyone would like to see them at home. I begin with our Believe theme that we're very excited about that we've begun this year. As you've seen our gray t-shirts, we believe in Norwich School District 80. This month, our October theme is believing in our coworkers and our teams. We asked the teachers actually to put together at Lee and at Giles some slides, which I'm not going to go through each page of, but will be posted up there and you can see that as well. Just highlighting their teams, highlighting the people they work with every day, highlighting things that are important to them and what they do. And as you can see, they all took a different approach. Some put pictures on it, some put words. Some talked about, things that they do and personal things like their friendships that they have, the things they believe in, treats that they like. Other times they just talked about or took pictures of different school-related things that they wanted to highlight. These are really lovely. All staff members, all CBA staff members are noted on all of these, so they're a fun thing to look through and celebrate our teams. This one obviously is the lead one, and then moving forward, there is the Giants one as well. So we'll have these posted so you can learn a little bit more about our teams, about how they collaborate, things that they hold as in their world that they hold as important that they're working on. They came out really nice and we were very happy about this. We try to every month do things to celebrate our theme, and again being about teams and coworkers, people that we work with every day. You have to come to work and be happy in who you're working with and happy with what you do. Our second topic is today is just a little grants update. And as I shared with you last month, we did complete the RFP for additional seats for Preschool for All grant. We were approved, we were accepted, we're still waiting to hear from the state. So hopefully we'll get that soon. The date that originally we were supposed to have the new seats up and running is November 1st. I assume that has changed. There has been some challenges from districts in the state, and that's what they are now going through. The next screening date, though, is October 27th. So if anyone has a student who is almost turning 3, let's say 2 years, 10 months, and has not been screened, this is the perfect time. Call the district office, get on the October 27th screening, especially if new seats do come in, then we will be going to our waiting list for students. So contact the district office to schedule screenings. There is also extensive information on our website regarding the Preschool for All grant and our preschool program. Really great stuff to look at. The second thing we've mentioned many times tonight is the community grant that we're working on. This is the last year of the community grant. This was also an ESSER ARP grant that came out through federal money and then through the state. We applied for this grant. This grant was working on the mental health wellness of Orange and Howard Heights. We've heard a lot about it tonight already. I did want to share with you, because we have not seen that yet. Mr. Biecki mentioned they worked on their second video, but at the time when we had our last meeting, we actually didn't get a chance to see the child's first video. So I did want to share that with you, because these are great things of communication.
Hi, my name is Bob Biecki, and I'm the principal here at Giles School. Here at Giles School, we talk everyday languages about being Jasmine. And what it means to be Jasmine just means that you're positive, you're respectful, you're responsible, you're inclusive, you're determined, and you're engaged. Every day, not only here at school, but at home and within the community. Here at Giles School, we have what we call hotspots, and it's part of our PBIS program where we want to educate students on how to behave at certain locations within the building. So each year, at the beginning of the year, we spend 3 weeks reteaching our students the correct behaviors. And then throughout the year, we reinforce our teachings to, we teach to the students the expected behaviors. But for example, if you're using the bathroom outside the bathroom doors, there's a sign that properly lists what the appropriate expectations are. Other areas that we focus on is the outside playground area. We've also focused in the hallway, we focus in the lunchroom, and we focus in the gym. Our main areas that we call hotspot trainings that we provide to our students here. Here at Giles School, we utilize a system called PBIS Rewards. And so each student has an account, a digital account. Each parent has an account to access their child's information, and then each staff member has an account as well. Students earn points for doing positive things, not only in the classroom, but in the hallway, attending events, showing that being engaged and showing school spirits, and attending an athletic contest, coming to a school dance. Students can earn a variety of points, and those points can be used to be redeemed for things that they like, incentives. Not only do we have that school store, but each teacher has a store as well. Some of the popular items are no homework passes, a no sugar Gatorade. We also have VIP seating in the lunchroom. at Giles School, one of the things that I love having is conversations with parents and listening to parents and how they tell me, share stories with me how at the dinner table they were having a conversation and their child brought up what it means to be Giles' name. And that's so powerful because we need that language to be discussed, not only here at school, but at home as well and within the community. So having that parent community support is very powerful. Having us all work together on a team and enriching the lives of each and every one of our students is extremely important so that we continue to build that foundation and give them the tools and the resources that they need to be successful at that next level of their education.
Really looking forward to see the additional videos that come out from NAMI is working with us through the mental health grant. This system that we've been learning that Mr. Bianchi spoke quite a bit about in his report tonight is a system that we also have been transferring to other areas in the district. So the last month when we heard the communications absence and tardies from the assistant principals, that's using that same model, that same system. So once you learn a system, you then repeat that system throughout, which causes everyone to feel more comfortable because you know the system, you know how to work within it, and it also keeps our systems consistent and our expectations consistent. So those are two grants that I just wanted to highlight for you. I'm very excited for PFA when we have the additional seats. Next month, in fact, later this month, October 30th, at 9 a.m., Illinois is going to release the school report card information, the Illinois school report cards. And what that involves is every school is given an annual summative designation. We're going to give you a little bit of information about this tonight. However, the data is embargoed, so I can't share with you where we are on that annual summative designation at this point, but I will in November talk to the board about all the different areas that are pulled in order to create that annual summative designation. The designation is based on the school's overall data for each student group and for all its accountability indicators. The student groups I have highlighted for you on that next page in your presentation tonight. Those are all the groups that are broken out in that the school report card looks at. School report card pulls a lot of data to come up with a final rating, a final annual summative rating of the district. You'll notice this year, you may notice this year, there are 5 different ratings. Typically there are 4. So they have added another rating. Exemplary is the overall top 10% schools in the state. And then it goes down into commendable, which is also a wonderful designation. Commendable just means that you're not part of that top 10%, but you do have 0 underperforming student groups. And then of course there's a high school piece there as well, but that is not, does not work with us. Then there's a targeted support, a comprehensive support, and then now an intensive support area in the state. Intensive support being schools that are in the below 5% Title I eligible statewide schools, lower graduation rates, and et cetera. These schools then have to put together a 4-year cycle for school improvement. So an additional area and annual designations this year. On the next page, I've highlighted for you elementary and middle schools what the academic indicators are. And we'll be able to go into specific data for us on these indicators next month. But they are looking at our English language arts and math growth, our English language arts proficiency, our math proficiency, and then they are starting to look at a little bit of science in there as well. And then our English learner proficiency. So those are EL students, which as you heard from the presentation this morning, earlier today, we're definitely targeting our support for with some after school and some during the day support. Then, which are so important areas, is the chronic absenteeism, which is worth 20% in the school quality and student success indicators, and our climate survey. We have put together for this year, as the assistant principal shared with you, a tiered system for absenteeism, really encouraging all of our students to be in school every day. Obviously, if they're sick, they should be home. But families, we're hoping, are taking a good look at when they're taking vacations compared to our school calendar. While we think that vacation time with family is very important, and we definitely encourage that, we just encourage kids to be in school. So we can take that time on the school holidays. That is wonderful, because if you go away for a week, that's only 5 days you've missed of school, which is a lot. They also use the climate survey data, which is the 5 essentials data, in order to put into a final rating for schools. So we will take a look in November at all of this data for our particular 2 schools, and then our overall district data. As you may recall, looking back at our summative indicators last year, they kind of planned everything a little bit differently because of COVID. So they went back to 2019 scores for the growth. So they looked at 19 to 2022. Giles was exemplary and Lee was commendable. Both wonderful categories to be in. So we will share those with you, or if you can't wait till the November meeting, you can go to the Illinois School Report Card starting on October 30th at 9 a.m. One thing I wanted to share with you is you've heard a lot, again, from both the principals about all the work that we've been working on, and I wanted to share with you some of that work. When we talked about the PLCs, and thank you for asking that question, I appreciate that. I know we talk a lot of jargon out of the letter, so please, anyone, feel free to ever stop us if we say too much that you don't understand. But our PLCs is our professional learning communities, and what happens is our teachers get together as a grade level or as a subject level, and they plan out what is it that we want the students to learn. This year, they are writing down in their plan book, what do we want students to learn? Now, there are lots of standards when you look at the priority standards, or what used to be called the Common Core standards, now the Illinois learning standards. So what we have done, and this has kind of been a 2-year process at this point, though overall it's a 5-year process, but we have taken the standards in every grade level. Sorry, just going to take a second to get through security on this. And we now put these up on our website, and parents can go on in the community, can look at our English language arts priority standards. So these are the standards that we feel that students need to learn in that grade to be successful to move forward to the next grade. Now, let me be clear, that does not mean anyone's staying back if they don't learn them. These are just our teachers are focusing on these standards. So these are the standards we'll assess. These are the standards that we will spend the majority of our instruction time teaching. These are the standards that we will look at the data about, and then these are the standards that we will intervene on. When I say intervene, today we mostly talked about the Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions. There is a whole other flip side to that, and that's the enrichment part. What do you do if a student already knows what you're teaching? How are we encouraging that student to grow and to learn more? That is on not on this year's focus for us, but it's definitely something we're dipping our toe in this year, as we're starting to, in those WIN groups, starting to focus on not just the lower side of the interventions with Tier 2 and Tier 3, but starting to talk about, okay, what do we do with these students who are now ready for this? So if you click on any of these areas, I'll just go to first grade, for example, you will go into specifically what are those standards that we are focusing on. And they're to list for you each of the areas. For example, English language arts literature area. There are 3 standards in first grade that we're focusing on. You can go even a level deeper here and click on the standard and go into what the standard is, what are the concepts, what is it that we, sorry, I'm sharing something I shouldn't be sharing, Dr. Raviola, so let me go to a different one. Yep, this one's perfect, sorry. Here you talk about what are the concepts that you're learning. learning? What are the skills? What are the key details that students need to know? So you take that big standard that kind of looks like a lot of words and you say, okay, what does this mean? What does this standard mean? Okay, so we want a student to be able to retell a story. We want a student to be able to tell us our key details or to listen to the central message. Then when you go down, you can see as they've listed here, what are our common formative assessments? What are the assessments that the students are all going to be able to take that'll drive our instruction? If everyone knows it, then we move on. You don't have to go back and talk about that anymore. And then what are the summative assessments that the students are taking? These areas, when we talk about the combative, the formative, are areas that our focus is this year. Along with, what does it look like to meet this standard? How do we break this up and say that you know this information because you can do this? That is where our teachers are working on their early release Wednesdays during our PLC time, or when they're working with their teams. This is pretty powerful information, and it's nice information for parents who want to go on and focus, and more knowledge about what it is we're working on. For example, here, English language arts writing, I'm still in first grade. You can click on and see what is it that they need to do in first grade writing. Well, they have to write an opinion piece, which they introduce the topic or the name of the book that they're writing about. They have to state their opinion, supply a reason why for their opinion, and provide some sense of closure. They need to write that. And you'll notice, as you look at them, if you look at a second grade standard under writing, that takes that same information and it goes a step further. You know, what do you now need to do with that information? So we are posting on our website our standards for ELA. Those are ready to go up. Our standards for math and our standards for science. For math, they will look the same. You can click in, for example, our fourth grade math and see where our standards are. So now you're not just looking at what is NBTB-4, it's fluently add and subtract multi-digit whole numbers using a standard algorithm. If you were like, well, I'm not sure exactly what that is, I can even go deeper into it to see what is the vocabulary you need to know to do that. What is it that the students need prior knowledge on in order to do this? Whether working on fluency or multi-digit numbers, how do we break that down so that everyone understands and knows what to do?
So does the nomenclature here kind of line up with what we see in Mastery Connect when you're checking on that?
Absolutely. Okay. So when you look at the standards that are written here, that's exactly the same standard that's in Mastery Connect. Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for making that. So if you were looking at standard, how your child is doing on standard W610, you can actually look at what they're doing on that standard.
Because oftentimes I look at those and I have no idea.
They're kind of way out there. Yeah, this will really help parents. And we're making a new area on our website. So our website basically has 3 home pages. You have the district one, you have the Lee one, the Giles one. The district one in the left bottom corner says registration, which makes sense. You're registering to the district. But we don't need registration on the Giles one and the Lee one. So we're changing that over to be a student learning page. That will be the new words that are on that page, student learning. You'll click on that and then go out into looking at all of our standards. If you look at other districts, this is some work that they've done in the past. We are now getting to this point of being able to share ours too, which we're really excited to be able to see here. This again comes with a lot of time and a lot of work. Last year, a lot of our committee work in science was working on these standards too. ELA kind of hit a bit the year before, and then math was our focus last year. This year, as I mentioned, we're now taking them apart a little more and moving into what are those assessments. What's the common formative and what is the summative? Formative meaning the little ones that are done along the way, then inform instruction. Summative being the big one that's done at the end to see what the students have learned. So I wanted to share that with the board tonight. I have a couple of slides here sharing with you about curriculum and tuition fees. The first one tells you we have a total of 1,128 students that are currently in the district. which is a little up from last year. Our projections, which we will make our projections again in January, as we do every year, we have been under a bit in our projections, I think due to the increase in immigrants that have been coming into the district, which is just not something we can really predict. We had 224 waivers that we accepted and worked through this year. You'll notice that number is cut in half of what it was previously. The reason for the change is we are no longer automatically waiving Medicaid families. We are automatically waiving anyone with SNAP or TANF, and anyone else who is not directly certified from the state can and has been turning in paper copies for waivers. And if people qualify for a waiver, that's absolutely fine, then we waive their fees. I process all waivers in the district. And the number 277, that was how many children took advantage, how many students took advantage of our August 1st discount. You may recall last February, we started an August 1st discount that gave about 5% of a discount to families if they had paid their fees by August 1st. 277 families took advantage of that. Which I believe, I don't have data from the year before, since we weren't keeping the data the year before, but it is our belief in the district office as we work with these, that is up from any other year that we've had. So I think it's been a nice focus, and it would be something that I probably will recommend we continue as we start to look at fees around January, February for 24, 25. And now we have about 19 students in preschool that still have outstanding tuition and fees, and about 35 in kindergarten. Now preschool and kindergarten are a little bit different. We have in policy now by December 31st, those fees, that tuition and fees need to be paid. We now have policy that states if you are in preschool and you don't have that paid by then, you will no longer attend preschool. This of course does not affect anyone who qualifies for PFA, since they do not pay for preschool fees. And also if you are in kindergarten and you are tuition paying kindergarten parent, that needs to be paid by December 1st as well, or we will then move down to half-day kindergarten until that is paid. That's the first time, this first year we'll be going through that. We are communicating greatly with those families so that there's no surprise come December 30th or January 8th when we come back from break. We have 14 families in first grade that have outstanding fees, 23, 27, and 22 in second, third, and fourth, which are lower numbers. As we get into some of the higher grades, you'll see those numbers go up a little bit. Do keep in mind, we just started, we just put in the charge for band, for beginning band last week. So beginning band takes place a little bit later. Mr. Bacaro has the instrument night where the parents come in and look at the instruments, and then they make that decision. So that 56 and 46, I believe, are elevated right now because of that. So as those bills go out and people start to pay for band, I think we'll see that come down. 7th and 8th grade, we typically see a little bit higher because 7th and 8th grade gets to the point where maybe they didn't pay all the fees the year before, and that starts to now get larger and larger. We have in place some policy, and we now have a company that we use for fee collection. So we're hoping that this does not continue, but because if you look back at our first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade numbers, they are considerably lower. What's important to point out though is we look at 47 families in 8th grade. Fees for 8th grade must be paid in full before a student is able to be in any of the 8th grade celebration activities. So this is the 8th grade dance, the 8th grade trip that they take at the end of the year, the not any field trips that we're doing right now, which is that main 8th grade trip. And happy to say that we do get 100%. We cannot, according to school code, hold up graduation itself. Everyone can attend graduation regardless if fees are paid or not. However, we do hold off on the other social events for 8th grade. And that's usually very successful. We start on that right away, letting parents know, and then continue to let them know. As of right now, We have 323 students with outstanding fees, which is about 28% of the district. Taking into consideration everyone that's PFA qualified, everyone that's paying tuition, everyone who's already paid, everyone who's waived, we're at about 28%. Now, would I like that number to be lower? Yes. But I do feel that we're putting a lot of attention on it, and I'm pretty happy with that 28% at this point. And we'll see that continue to come. Any questions about these? Just a quick little update on district residency. As you know, residency has continued to be an issue in the district, and that has not changed. To give you some background, we send a database to a company that researches families, goes through, what they do is they look for any outside addresses or connections that might be outside of Norwich. We do not flag people for them. They run this database and they decide that. So I think sometimes parents think that, we're watching them and flagging them. That actually isn't the case. It could be, but that isn't. What happens after families are flagged is a home visit happens, and if the home visit is in Norwich, it happens there first. If they have an address outside of Norwich, they go to that outside address. As of today, 3 families who registered with us at the beginning of this year have already transferred out due to being found to be outside of the district boundaries. And then after that step, families can go on to a hearing phase. Currently, right now, we have 14 families that we're in the process of scheduling hearings for. This is our second year in this process. Last year, all the families that went into a hearing except for one transferred out the day of or the day after the hearing. So I'll keep you abreast on what happens with this. Those hearings are scheduled in November. I can't remember the date right now. So I think that the residency company that we've been using, again, this is our second year, already having 3 families transfer out already, I think is definitely proving to be a benefit for our district. I am putting policy 3.30 on hold tonight. I was anticipating we would have 114 at this point. 114, I believe, has an update to 8.30. If we update and they update, the updates don't work. So I want to put that on hold right now. And just in my legislative update, I want to share with you 103-0500. This is interesting. I think we talked a little bit about list 1 before, but just wanted to highlight it for you again. This one has to do with the tenure laws, and this went into effect right away. And basically, what used to be that you would reach tenure when you walk into the district day 1 of your 5th year. So we worked 4 consecutive years in the district. They moved that down to 3 years. The motivation from the state was that for teacher retention. I think this is going to be something we need to keep an eye on and keep watch over. During years 1 through 4, we would be able to non-renew a teacher before we brought them to the tenure status if we wanted to. Now that will be years 1 through 3. So that's important for us to look at. And in year 4, it used to be you had to have reasons and give reasons, where 1 through 3 you didn't have to. Now, 1 through 2, you don't have to, 3, you will have to. So, just an interesting thing for us if you have followed PARA, which is the law about evaluations. It's going to really change, it's changing that law. We should see a press update on this as well.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Please.
So, if I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly, that if someone has taught for 2 years and have gotten excellent evaluations both years, they can receive tenure even faster than 3 years.
Correct. Yes, thank you for pointing that out. Yes, they can. Or even if the evaluations weren't here, they can then apply to the board to allow them to have tenure. That is an apply to the board. It's not an automatic.
Okay.
My follow-up in future area, last month we spoke to you about the field trip survey, the Washington DC for 8th grade, the Springfield for 7th grade. With the board's permission, I would like to recommend that we schedule an informal and informational meeting for the 8th grade parents. The latest data is there. 62 families responded to the survey. 56 of them said yes, they were interested at that price of $14.99. 44% of them said no. We reached out to, Mr. Bianchi reached out to the company, and that price of $14.99 is set if there are 40 families, 40 students attending. If less than 10, of course, then that would adjust. If more 10, that could adjust. At this point, and unless we have an informational meeting, I don't think we're really going to know. So if the board would like to move forward with that, I'll work with Mr. Bianchi. We'll schedule an informational meeting where parents, I think what's important for parents to understand is what's included in that. I think some of the parents, just based on their feedback in the survey, thought we were setting an arbitrary number. This is a company that does this. This is what they do. They take many, many students on field trips to Springfield, to Washington, D.C. every year. And to hear about their system, hear how it works, I think would be important for families to seriously look at it if they want to do it. And then I believe there has to be a deposit set in order to truly put down that yes, this is something we want to do. Until we do get to that point, I don't think we're going to know. So I think we go for it, we try it, and if it comes up that we want to attend, then that sounds good. On the Springfield side, the price is $175. Again, we have many families that said, what does this include? We didn't give that information on our simple little survey, but I think we can get out some additional information to the parents on what that includes. And the $175, again, this is not an arbitrary number that we set up. 59 families answered this survey, 88% said yes, and 12% said no. So we think we can move forward on the Springfield, which I have actually attended the Springfield trip previously. It must have been 2019 with 7th grade. It actually was a great day, great trip. The Lincoln Museum, even up in there, is amazing. Wonderful for students. It was great. The whole day was really fun. The bus ride is, it's long, but they do take one of those luxury buses. There's a bathroom on the back. Very nice comfy seats. Many parents came along with us as well. It was definitely an enjoyable day. I want to say we got back maybe either 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening, and we left probably 4 or 5 in the morning. It was a long day. Many of the students were sleeping on the way home.
Quick question.
Yes, please.
Those, let's say both of these happen as we go. Those students who do not participate are basically, they just have a normal school day?
Correct. They have an alternative work that day. It is important to note the Washington, D.C. trip, when we've gone on in the past, was only administrators who attended. The Springfield trip was also only administrators, so the teachers were here. So that we can accommodate any number of students that are here. I just think we have to watch that 40 students number with Washington, D.C. If we dipped at only 20 students, I think the board needs to then make a decision, do we want to move forward with that? Or is that something that, we don't have enough interest in? Unfortunately, we don't have, it's one thing for parents to mark down a survey, yes, but to actually put down a deposit and actually, commit to it is a different thing.
What is the timing of the DC?
I believe it's 3 days.
But is it going to be done in the spring or this year?
Correct. It could be, if we continue it, it could be a fall trip as well. Any other questions? Is the board good with moving forward on field trips? Great. Just wanted to share a quick update on our annual financial report. Typically, we have the annual financial reports by now. It is due to West 40 Regional Office of Education by October 15th. We have asked for an extension, and that extension has been granted since we don't have it yet from our auditors. The extension is till December 15th. So you may remember we did not get it by December 15th last year due to how late all the tax bills were in getting the information to the auditors, not from our side, but from Cook County. So we're hopeful that we'll have everything in time by December 15th, but of course the IREs in the state did understand Cook County's issues last year. When we do receive the annual financial report, that will be something that the board will accept. We'll be asking. Just a quick note on the district levy. In November, we will have our finance committee meeting at 6:30, where we will present the estimated levy. CPI increase is scheduled for 5%. Remember now the levy, so the budget is how much money we're going to spend in all those different funds. The levy is where the money that we're giving in, and as you recall, we get mostly local tax dollars. How are we going to spend it? Where are we going to put it in all those big funds that we talk so much about now? How are we going to split that up among the funds? Typically, a district does not have to do a truth and taxation hearing. However, we will do one this year again, as we did last year. The truth and taxation hearing looks a little bit like the budget hearing, where we start at the meeting and then we go into the truth and taxation hearing, if anyone from the public comes out and wants to speak. The reason for that is if you want to go above the 4.9 tax cap and capture anything else in there, then you have to do a truth and taxation hearing. If CPI was like 1.9%, you can go ahead and add that 0.3 or that 0.4 that is typically expected from new construction. However, if CPI is 5%, there isn't that room. So we want to capture every single bit that we can. So we will go through a truth and taxation hearing in December so that we can go up to perhaps that 5.3 or that 5.4. It is important to note that this process does not affect current property taxpayers. This just allows us to be able to get any new construction that we're seeing in or our parts of our rights. And that is the end of my report. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Consent agenda. I need a motion to approve consent agenda items 15A through 15PT.
Motion.
Second. Can I have a roll call?
Mrs. McPhillips?
Yes.
Mrs. Theodore? Yes. Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mrs. Lau?
Yep.
Mrs. Burbach Armfield?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzzi?
Yes. The motion passes. 16 action item. Consider motion to approve North School District 80 revised building rental agreement application. Can I have a motion? Molly, who's a second? Second. Can I have a roll call?
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mrs. McPhillips?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mrs. Theodore? Mrs. Burbach Armfield?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzzi?
Yes. The motion passes. Board comments. Any comments? Okay, I need a motion to adjourn to closed session to discuss appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, collective negotiation matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, the placement of individual students in special education programs, and other matters relating to individual students, and review of closed session minutes. Can I have a motion? Motion. Maria?
Second.
Molly? Discussion, can I have a roll call?
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mrs. McPhillips?
Yes.
Mrs. Theodore?
Yes.
Mrs. Burbach Armfield?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzzi?
Yes, motion passes. Let's meet in Tiger territory in 10 minutes. Now back in open session at 10:56. Action item. Consider motion to approve Norwich Park District contract for 2023 to 2026. Can I have a motion?
Second.
Lauren. Can I have a roll call?
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mrs. Urbach-Arndt?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mrs. McPhillips?
Yes.
Mrs. Theodore?
Yes.
And Mr. Tribuzio?
Yes. Motion passes. Personnel action items, A, 1, 2, and 3. I need a motion to pass.
Motion.
Second.
Lauren and Amanda. Can I have a roll call?
Mrs. Urbach-Arndt?
Yes.
Mrs. McPhillips?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mrs. Theodore?
Yes.
Mr. Tribuzio?
Yes. Motion passes.
Did I miss it? Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
The motion passes. Okay. Now on to board meeting reflection. I need a motion to adjourn this meeting at 10:58.
Motion.
Second.
Lauren, Amanda, all in favor? All opposed, say nay. The meeting is now adjourned.